So someone called the other day and they said, hey man, that's cool. You've got that same picture of Malcolm Smith in your shop that I've got in my garage, but yours looks a little different. It's got a different frame and it looks like it's got some writing on it. Is there some writing on it? And I said, yeah, he had signed that for me. Oh, that's cool. And what does it say? And I said, well, mine says, to Dave, the mad genius. So the guy goes, really? Oh, yeah. He's like, man, that's super cool. You should put that out there on your video. Not too many people have like a personally signed thing from Malcolm Smith. Why did he even write that? And I said, well, because he used to endorse my Power Now thing. And I don't know, maybe he thought I knew what I was doing. And then I built some bikes with him for some magazines and they called him a genius and he kind of liked that. And then, I don't know, we just became friends and I would build bikes for him to give away in charity at the Saboba Indian reservation race and all that kind of stuff. And he said, wow, that's really cool. You should actually put that out there. That kind of separates you from the other jokers that make videos that think they know what they're talking about when they really don't, or maybe they're making stuff up just to get people to buy some stuff. Like that gives you some more cred. Gives you some cred in my book. Well, okay, well, there you go. I guess I took his advice and put it out there. So now let's move on with it since I have cred, apparently. Now these 2023 and 24 TBI bikes have some stinking issues. And we're gonna look at these pistons and I'm gonna hit this button. I got a panic button, I got a fail button for what's going on with these bikes. Yeah, now let's get a close-up of these pistons. Let's look at these hideous pistons. That doesn't even count this one with the seizure. That's next video. Don't ever make a snow bike with oil injection. This one is out of the 300 XCW with the oil injection, the 24 bike. They don't have much for oil, folks. This is about 100 to 1 on those things when you look at the numbers and calculate it out, because KTM doesn't think the customers want spooge or dribble or whatever out the back. That's true. People really complain about that stuff. You know, go and get a 4-stroke. So that really has nothing to do with it. It's just good to point out. And it was on MotorX. So this is all blow-by. It's pure carbon. It's blow-by on both sides of the exhaust port. Extremely shiny exhaust port, which means it was probably running really hot, because I'm going to assume that it was kind of a blooper bike. Probably not a lot of past third gear, not a lot past half throttle. This one here is out of my 23 personal bike, 300 XC, running on premix at 50 to 1 with my Klotz R50, a much better oil than that Motor X stuff because it's got a really high flash point in it, so you have much better film strength. Lubrication in it, same problem, but it's not as hot. Now this thing had a lot of time on the dyno, so this is where all the power measurements came from. This was run with the stock ECU and it was run with the reprogrammed ECU. The exhaust port isn't near as shiny as this thing was, and I know what kind of stress this thing went through, so I think there's a big attribution there to the oil and premix itself. Still has the blow-by though. This is still carbon on the exhaust side on both sides, pure carbon. It's not just this kind of stuff where you see the little Teflon coating wearing away. The rest of it looks good, right? Obviously not lean by any means. Hey, there was this bike, but this was a stock bike, the stock ECU. So what causes these problems? Well, the new bikes are totally different than the old bikes. You can't compare a TBI bike to a TPI or an older carbureted bike. The new bikes have much higher compression because they have a completely different cylinder configuration. And with the extra compression, you get extra pressure in there, and because of the extra pressure, you get extra heat, too much heat. And a main reason that you have this compression problem is you have no bleed hole. And you're going, huh? Here's your cylinder for the new bikes. a cylinder like everything else. You have an exhaust port, you have cylinder wall, and you have your cylinder head. However, on the older KTMs, everything before these 23 TBI bikes, you always saw a hole here, a compression bleed hole. It was a hole that got rid of the pressure, hence a compression bleed hole. Well, that silly hole is kind of actually a big deal. That's been a big difference between the KTM motorcycles and every other two-stroke basically on the planet. You know, you don't really see that, or you've never really seen that ever before. And that always set the compression ratio, or the compression on a KTM is somewhere, you know, right around 180 to 190 at sea level, which was right there in accordance to say like an RM250 or a YZ250 racing two-stroke, or, you know, everything else categorically speaking to that size and higher revving performance two-stroke. Now that that's gone, and you check these things, the compression's well, you know, between 2 to 220, depending on where they've stacked the base gaskets on these things, and that's just too high. And that creates all that pressure, and that creates all that heat. Plus, these things have a thermostat in them now, and they did before. Even on the TBI bikes, they had a thermostat before, but none of these things are really helping the situation. And then you have an oil that just doesn't have a film strength to keep up with that heat, and I think breaks down. You need a good oil with a higher flash point. There's layers to this thing, and one thing does affect the other, so there's going to be 2, 3 more videos to cover all these bases. You can just listen to what I've got to say. You can make your decision from there. You can gather everybody's information and see what you think is right, and that's cool. All I can do is give you my best information and back it up with some cold, hard pictures and facts, temperatures, power numbers, general things like that, just more than hearsay. Well, thank you for watching. Hope you have a great night, and I'm gonna see you soon on the next video.